What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Tuesday, March 12th, 2024, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. We currently have a possible coup attempt underway in Russia. We have several Russian partisan groups currently fighting against the Russian military in southwestern Russia in Kursk and Belgorod, and the leader of one of these partisan groups has vowed to go all the way to Moscow. And the partisan groups involved in this possible coup attempt are the RDK, the Freedom of Russia Legion, and the Siberian Battalion. They apparently crossed into Russia from Ukraine. And what you're looking at here are the flight paths of several Russian presidential doomsday planes, and it appears that Putin has been evacuated out of Moscow. You can see all of these planes going east towards Siberia. This was at around 4 a.m. this morning, okay, Eastern time. You can see all these Russian special flight squadron planes. These are all part of Putin's doomsday plane squadron and airborne command post squadron for nuclear war, so he can command the Russian nuclear forces. So Putin has been evacuated from Moscow. Okay, and this week is re-election week for Putin. He's going to be re-electing himself at the end of the week. And so obviously they want to stir up trouble right before his re-election. And yesterday there was a massive cyber attack on the Russian government. Some type of hacking group was able to encrypt large amounts of Russian government data and take control of various servers and domains of the Russian government. So this could all be one big coordinated attack. The cyber attack came first yesterday, and then today, the actual ground invasion. Now, we do have some footage here coming in. And before I continue, I just want to say thanks to Steve Quayle. Some of you guys may know who he is. He was a guest on Coast to Coast AM for many years, and I was a big listener of Coast to Coast AM, being that I'm a night owl, and he's been sharing me out on his website. So thank you very much, Steve Quayle. If you're watching this, thank you for sharing me out, and I'm a big fan of your work. From the region, and you can see this tank over here rolling through southwestern Russia, and this tank has the flag of one of these partisan groups. Okay, so they do have tanks, and they are reportedly engaged in firefights right now this morning, Tuesday, March the 12th, 2024, with the Russian military. Okay, and here we have a video of the leader of one of these partisan groups. He goes by the name of Caesar. He's the leader of the Freedom of Russia Legion. And he's basically saying that they're going to go to Moscow. Okay, so it's going to get pretty interesting over the next 24 hours. We'll see how far they get and what the plan is. And apparently, Ukraine is preparing for a serious operation in Crimea, according to the intelligence chief, Kirilo Budanov. He's the chief of Ukraine's military intelligence. Talking about the recent drone strikes around Crimea, he said these are all preparatory measures for a serious operation in Crimea. Okay, a serious operation, guys. And overnight, Ukrainian drones attacked an oil refinery and a fuel depot in Russia, hundreds of kilometers from the Ukrainian border. The Kstovo industrial area in Nizhny Novgorod Oblast of Russia was hit with a drone, which resulted in a fire at an oil processing facility. The town of Kstovo is located around 800 kilometers from the border with Ukraine. Okay, 800 kilometers away. And here we have a picture of that oil refinery, oil processing facility okay, burning. And in addition to that, Ukrainian drones also struck a fuel depot in the Russian city of Oryol, where a fire broke out. As a result of these attacks, Lukoil, the main oil company in Russia, announced the suspension of operations of one of their facilities. And here's a picture of the fuel depot that was hit in Oryol. And Russian air defense systems reportedly destroyed Ukraine launched drones near Moscow, according to the governor of Moscow. Okay, so Ukraine apparently sent drones into Moscow. And consider the timing of all this, guys. Okay, Putin reelecting himself this week. We got these partisans saying they're going to go to Moscow. We have Ukraine hitting all these targets with drones over the past few days. Massive cyber attack yesterday on the Russian government. So it looks like this is all one big coordinated effort, it seems to me. An unidentified man in New Mexico died from the bubonic plague in America's first fatal case in years, the state's health department said. And the Haitian Prime Minister Ariel Henry has resigned after threats from the leader of the most powerful gang in Haiti to commit genocide and create civil war. Power in the country will be temporarily handed over to a presidential transition council consisting of 7 members who will represent various local movements. This update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply has brought back their 25% discount on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the discount, you got to use the link preparewithnYprepper.com. And the link is in the description below this video. But this 3-month emergency food supply has a 25-year shelf life. It includes over 2,000 calories per day, breakfasts, lunches, dinners, drinks, and snacks, all contained within 6 rugged, water-resistant buckets, and free shipping is included. So use the link preparewithnYprepper.com to get $200 off or 25% off of the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply. The link is in the description below this video. Free shipping is included. They also have a general store where they sell all kinds of prepping and survival products, and they're always running various discounts. And to get to their general store, you just got to click on the My Patriot Supply logo when you get to preparewithnYprepper.com at the top of the page, and you'll see their general store where they sell all kinds of prepping and survival products, and they're always running discounts here. So use the link preparewithnYprepper.com to get 25% off of the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply, and the link is in the description below this video. Over 100 rockets were launched by Hezbollah at northern Israel this morning. This is the most amount of rockets that Hezbollah has fired at northern Israel since the war in Gaza started. And the Islamic resistance in Iraq and Iranian proxy claimed responsibility for a drone attack targeting the main international airport in Israel, the Ben Gurion Airport, which is right outside of Tel Aviv. Apparently, the Jordanian military shot down the drone over Jordanian airspace. So these Iranian proxies are now trying to attack Israel, guys. They're not just attacking U.S. bases anymore. They're going after Israel. And Hezbollah is stepping up their rocket attacks, okay? They've launched probably hundreds of rockets over the past 2 or 3 days at northern Israel. And Israel fired back yesterday with a massive bombardment of northern Lebanon. Look at that, guys. Absolutely insane. This was after Hezbollah launched probably about 70 or 80 rockets on Sunday night at northern Israel. And yesterday, Israel responded with a massive air campaign or airstrike on northern Lebanon, which is pretty interesting. They usually don't go into northern Lebanon that much, okay? But a very serious situation there. It is escalating day by day. And the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant gave an ultimatum to Amos Hochstein, the White House Lebanon advisor, basically saying that Hezbollah has until March 15th to basically move away from the Israeli border. Okay, they want to create a buffer zone. Israel wants a buffer. They don't want Hezbollah to be right at their border because then they can launch these artillery rockets into Israeli communities. So they want them to go further away from the border. And if they don't, then Israel is going to use military means. And in Jenin, in Israel, a suicide bomber was thwarted prior to carrying out his attack by the Israeli military. This is a serious escalation, as we haven't seen anything like this in many, many years, guys. We haven't heard of, suicide bombings in Israel in many years. Okay, so things are escalating in the Middle East. Things are escalating in Ukraine. It looks like this year is just going to really be a very, very crazy year, guys. I think this could be the year that Russia and NATO go to war. It could be the year that we have nuclear war. It could be the year that we have a civil war. So get prepared, guys. And we have continued escalation in the Red Sea. According to the U.S. military, Iranian backed Houthi terrorists fired 2 anti ship ballistic missiles from Houthi controlled areas of Yemen into the Red Sea towards a merchant vessel, the Pinocchio, a Singapore owned Liberian flagged ship. Apparently, the missiles did not impact the vessel and there were no injuries or damage reported. Then later on, the U.S. military conducted 6 self defense strikes, destroying 18 anti ship ballistic missiles in western Yemen. It was determined that these weapons were presented as an imminent threat to merchant vessels and U.S. Navy ships in the region. Okay, 18 anti ship missiles destroyed by the U.S. military yesterday in an air raid on western Yemen. Okay, there were a total of 6 strikes, and they destroyed 18 anti ship missiles and an underwater unmanned vessel. So it's continuing to escalate with the Houthis. And I reported in my last update that they were practicing to launch an attack on the Dimona nuclear facility in the Negev desert in Israel. The Dimona nuclear facility is basically where the Israeli nuclear program started. Okay, that's where they built their first nuclear weapons. So the Houthis are practicing to launch an assault on this facility, potentially to capture it and hold it hostage or exfiltrate nuclear material. We don't know, guys, but that is very concerning. And the Polish prime minister and the Polish president will both be meeting with Biden today. This is interesting because they are total opposites politically. So something serious must have prompted them to both make a visit at the same time to the U.S. This would be the equivalent of Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump going on a trip together overseas. Ahead of the visit, President Andrzej Duda called on other members of the NATO alliance to raise their spending on defense to 3% of their GDP as Russia puts its own economy on a war footing and pushes forward with its plans to conquer Ukraine. Poland already spends 4% of its own economic output on defense, double the current target of 2% in NATO. In an opinion piece for the Washington Post, Polish President Andrzej Duda argued that Russia was switching its economy to war mode, allocating close to 30% of its annual budget to arm itself. This figure and other data coming out of Russia are alarming, Duda wrote. Okay, 30% of its annual budget, guys. That's what the Polish president is saying that Russia is spending on their weapons, guys. 30%. Okay, that is insane. Okay, and the Polish president calling that figure and other data coming out of Russia as alarming. Okay, the Biden administration suggested Duda's call to raise defense spending for NATO countries may be, at least for the time being, overly ambitious. I think the first step is to get every country meeting the 2% threshold, and we've seen improvement of that, State Department spokesman Matt Miller said. But I think that's the first step before we start thinking about an additional proposal. And Slovak Defense Minister Robert Kalinak has slammed the idea of officially sending NATO forces to Ukraine by calling it a red line that should not be crossed. Politicians in the West are exploiting war and suffering in Ukraine for their own goals, he told the TA3 news outlet on Sunday. And the Ukrainian consul in Poland, Serhiy Tsarek, visited the Darahusk-Yahodin border crossing on March 11th and reported he did not see any blocked passenger buses by Polish farmers, following conflicting reports that Polish protesters were blocking Ukrainian passenger buses from crossing the border. In Russia, lawmakers of the ruling United Russia Party, that's Putin's party, submitted a draft law to the Russian State Duma, that's their parliament, yesterday on March 11th, declaring Russia's 1954 return of Crimea to Ukraine illegal. The draft bill, which was submitted to Russia's lower house, claims that the internationally recognized return of Crimea to the then Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic was illegal and contradicting fundamental principles of a lawful state and international law. So, if you guys don't know, basically what happened was Crimea was given to Ukraine as a gift by the leaders of Russia. The leader of Russia at the time in 1954 gave Crimea as a gift to Ukraine, and that's what international law is now based off of. Okay, and that's why the Russian parliament basically wants to reject that and say that Crimea is not part of Ukraine. It never was. It was a gift, but it's still Russian. Okay, so that is huge. But that's the latest information that I have, guys. I will continue to monitor the situation in Russia with this possible coup attempt. And if anything serious happens, I will go live and provide live updates if necessary. But I will be back later on with more updates. So make sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell icon down below so you get notified when I post these updates. And if for whatever reason you don't see an update for a while from me, just go and search my name and just check, because a lot of times the notifications don't get sent out for whatever reason. But until the next one, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere. Guys, if you want to learn about some of the most infamous terrorist leaders in the Middle East, you got to check out Gaza's Most Wanted. They have these playing cards and shooting range targets with all the most infamous terrorists printed on them. So this way you can learn what they look like and who they are while playing a game of poker or while having fun at the range practicing your skills. 10% of proceeds are donated to support the Israeli Defense Forces. So check them out, gazasmostwanted.com. And if you use the promo code NYPrepper, you get 5% off of your entire order. So I'm going to leave a link and the promo code in the description below this video.